As university students studying geography, we've delved into some of the intricacies of climate change, grappled with its science, the imperative of a low-carbon energy transition, and the unequal impact of this crisis. Despite years of dedicated study, the complexity of the subject is often felt overwhelming, which got us pondering, what about those outside this field, the older generation, parents, people running businesses, and younger people who will have to bear the main brunt in the very near future? How can they tackle climate change when the information often seems so inaccessible? In searching the internet to find the answers, we came across what seemed to be an exciting idea. Called Climate Fresk, a gamified educational resource straight from the IPCC. We headed to Cambridge to meet with Climate Fresk facilitator Christina Smith to discuss its role in empowering individuals and organisations to take meaningful action.
Intergovernmental panel on climate change report, it's a massive thing. It's more than 1,000 pages, and I can't understand it all. I'm not a scientist. So this Climate Fresk activity gives people a chance to understand a kind of summarised version of it.
Christina described how Climate Fresk sessions are structured for interactive learning. They begin with an introduction and icebreaker, followed by participants forming groups of at least 5 people. Throughout the 3-hour session, participants engage with sets of cards to explore the cause and effect relationships related to climate change.
So we want everybody's voice to be heard. We form groups and people sit around a table. We have usually got some brown paper along this long table.
The facilitator guides the process, adding insight and prompting integration of new information. The session concludes with a creative collage activity, allowing participants to reflect and visualize what they've learned. It was encouraging to know that Climate Fresk finished the session by focusing on what you could do to help, and that encouraged discussions that didn't just focus on the science.
We have emotional responses to what's happening. It's not just about facts and information. How are they perceiving all of this? How is it affecting them? What are they taking away from it? What are they doing about climate change? What can they do? There's a whole series of different activities that are offered to facilitators to pick from to facilitate some kind of a discussion at the end.
We had learned from our course that a participative, collaborative learning approach was one of the best ways to bring about transformative change. But how do you get people to open up?
It's mostly about getting people in the group to share their collective knowledge and to listen to each other. The idea is to use teamwork to try to work it out like a puzzle. And what's also important is that people have the chance to chat. So people can share things they've read in the newspapers. They might talk about what their company is doing, or what their business is doing, or what they've tried to do at home.
The initiative's popularity is doubling every 5 to 6 months.
More than 1,300,000 people have taken part in a Climate Fresk around the world. The cards and the activities have been translated into many languages.
She emphasised the importance of broadening understanding about climate change across various sectors, including universities, companies, communities, governments, and crucially, schools.
I didn't learn any of this stuff at school, and I don't think my son has learned any of this at school, and he's just finished his GCSEs. I think it's really important that we understand more about what kind of changes have the most impact, because we've been sold a lot of sort of lies.
Christina debunked the misconception that individual carbon footprints are the main contributors to climate damage, pointing instead to a handful of large companies responsible for the majority of emissions.
And then we make each other feel guilty, and we don't point the finger in the right direction.
While we both agreed that there should be universal access to climate change knowledge, I wanted to find out whether Climate Fresk considered the importance of a just transformation to sustainability, since many countries which contribute the least carbon emissions are left to bear the brunt of climate change impacts.
It was always implicit in the game before, but we've just had a new card added very, very recently about growing inequality, and it comes out towards the end of the Fresk. Gives people a chance to connect the idea that flooding and droughts and health issues and potentially wars are maybe even more likely to affect in parts of the world that are already disadvantaged and are already experiencing the worst effects of climate change compared to some of us living in a more developed country. So having this towards the end of the Fresk gives people a chance to summarize and look back at the whole collage that they've made and make this connection very explicitly.
Finally, we wanted to learn about what Christina had planned for Climate Fresk in Cambridge. She highlighted Cambridge's potential as a hub for Climate Fresk sessions, given the presence of numerous large companies with budgets for education and sustainability. She mentioned the opportunity to collaborate with institutions like the NHS, which accounts for 5% of the UK's total emissions, and engage with key workers at Addenbrooke's. Christina also expressed interest in involving university undergraduates, local businesses, churches, and community centres. She highlighted the availability of a junior version of Climate Fresk for secondary schools and emphasised the importance of expanding the team of facilitators to reach more people.
I think we have a fabulous future, we just need to get started.